It's Sandy Parker. Welcome to Crafting for Almost Everyone. Today is our this is our third day in our DIY week of projects, and today's project is going to be about the Stamp-a-Ma-Jig. Now, the Stamp-a-Ma-Jig is a tool that is often used, and I used it on this card that I just made. This is going to be our sample that we're going to duplicate a little bit. I also used the bow jig. You know how I'm horrible at bows, but I used the bow jig and made this bow on it. But anyway, today is all about the Stamp-a-Ma-Jig and how you use it, what you use it for, the different uses, and I hope this will answer a lot of your questions. When you use a Stamp-a-Ma-Jig, it involves a couple of different things. One of the things it involves is, I'll take this card out of the way. One of the things that it involves is a clear plastic piece of paper, piece of acetate, and not only that, it also involves the Stamp-a-Ma-Jig. So those are your two tools, plus your stamp. So what you need to do when you have a Stamp-a-Ma-Jig, and here is my replica of a Stamp-a-Ma-Jig. This is strictly Legos. And all I did was I just got another piece of acetate, which comes in all of your packaging supplies. I mean, you can't, when you buy anything in stamping, you get one of these pieces of acetate. And your acetate doesn't need to be any bigger than your L shape, upside down L shape, whatever you call it. You want to make sure that when you use this Stamp-a-Ma-Jig, that you put your piece of acetate, your plastic piece, you want to put that exactly into the corner of your L-shaped Stamp-a-Ma-Jig. The reason for that is because you're going to be using this as a guide. Now, I use a Stamp-a-Ma-Jig differently than other people, but I'm going to show you the traditional way of using it. What you do with the Stamp-a-Ma-Jig, and I'm going to put this blue under here just so you can hopefully see better. What you do is you're going to put your acetate into, I'm going to use the original Stamp-a-Ma-Jig so you can see it better first. You're going to put your acetate, your paper doesn't need to be there, I'm just using it so you can kind of see the dimensions. What you do then is you take StazOn or an archival ink. I'm just going to use Ranger archival because you know it's often at my hand. And what I'm going to be stamping is this little image. We're going to make that Easter card, and this goes in the middle of the egg. The point of the Stamp-a-Ma-Jig is, you know when you have a wooden stamp, it's almost impossible to get that in there exactly in the right place. The Stamp-a-Ma-Jig makes it so that your stamped image is exactly where you want it to be. What I use the Stamp-a-Ma-Jig for is, you know, I'm not really, I will call it adept at stamping my images perfectly every time. So what I do is, let's say I'm doing this egg. What I would do is I would put the Stamp-a-Ma-Jig right there in the corner. I would stamp my image, I'd pick it up, and then if the image wasn't exactly right, because the Stamp-a-Ma-Jig is in that place, you can put it right back in the corner, push it right back down, and it's kind of like an old-fashioned, well, it's the MISTI before the MISTI, and it is the MISTI for wooden stamps because MISTIs don't work on wooden stamps. But that's how I use it. If I'm stamping an image, I stamp it, I lift up the stamp, I look at it. If it's not perfect, then I just stamp it again. Does that make sense? I hope it does. What the MISTI was originally designed for, though, was exactly what I said. It's for when you want to put an image into a spot and you just want accuracy. You know, like sometimes you'll have, let's say you're going to be stamping something where you want an animal to be holding something in its hand. Well, it's really difficult with wooden stamps to get it exactly in his hand. That's where the Stamp-a-Ma-Jig is so genius, because you can put that directly where you want it. So let's do our egg. I stamped it on the acetate. I hope you can see that. I'm going to move the acetate aside because now we're going to do our egg. And I'm going to do exactly like I told you. I'm going to put the Stamp-a-Ma-Jig, I don't need it right now, I'm going to put it exactly in where my egg is. Okay? So I'm going to put it exactly where I'm stamping my egg. Now when I'm done stamping, if it's not perfect, and it is, I would be able to go right back in, put it right back in that spot, and use it again. Isn't that great? I don't know about you, but I do have problems with that. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put our piece of acetate exactly where we want this. I think I want it right there. I can't decide if I always stamp this thing upside down. Oh, there probably in lies my problem. We're going to stamp that image again because I think I stamp it upside down. I'm going to flip it over. We're going to try it again. Again, you're going to put your acetate into the top corner. You're just going to stamp down on the acetate. The acetate is really just a guide for you. Let's see if it fits my egg better this way. I think it does. Okay, you see how now it fits the egg much better? So what you do, that's where I want it. I'm going to put it exactly in that spot. So I'm going to put the Stamp-a-Ma-Jig, oops, move my paper. That's another thing you don't want to do, don't move your paper. I'm going to put the Stamp-a-Ma-Jig right there, right where I want it. Now you remove the acetate, but don't move your Stamp-a-Ma-Jig. I'm going to have to do that upside down because I keep this thing's on here upside down. Then I'm just going to stamp down. Hopefully, it's exactly where we wanted it. Perfect. Exactly perfect. Isn't that the coolest thing? I mean, I think that's just the neatest thing. Okay, so now I'm going to do something with little circles. Your acetate is really easy to clean off. All I do is I just wipe it with a cloth and the image comes right off. Now we're going to try our homemade one. All we did was take Legos and attach them together. Now, if you could find Legos that are flat, I didn't have any that were flat. I borrowed these from a friend. If you had some that were flat on this side, it probably would be a lot better. But I didn't have them. So that's just the way I guess it goes. Okay, so we're going to take our piece of acetate, and this time we're going to use the new Stamp-a-Ma-Jig. And all we're going to do is we're going to, again, put it in the corner of our image. And this time we're going to be stamping little circles. Whoop! That was slippery because it's wet. It's slippery when wet. Hold on, got to wipe that off. Should have thought about that wet part, huh? Okay, back to our Stamp-a-Ma-Jig. Okay. So we're going to take our circle, line it up. There we go. See? Okay. Now you're going to take your acetate. You're going to put it where you want it on your egg. We're going to stamp it again so we have a good image. We're going to put our I wobbled it a little bit. That's okay. We can clean that up. So we're going to flip this over and we're going to do it again. Why not? That's what paper has two sides for, right? Okay. We're going to take our Stamp-a-Ma-Jig, stamp this upside down because our egg is upside down. I don't have trouble with the bigger stamps. It's those little stamps that it's a dilemma. Okay. So there's, I don't know if you can see our image. I didn't really put a lot of juice on it. Ink. Juice. Jeez. Okay. So we're going to line that up. And again, if you had Legos that didn't have those circles on it, it'd be a lot better. But my image is still pretty good. I wobbled it a little, as usual. Then, because I'm daring and bold, I'm just going to try to stamp these images in the sake of time. I don't want you to have to be here forever. You got the idea of what the Stamp-a-Ma-Jig is for. The other thing it's really cool for is when you're trying it, when you stamp a lot of images around like I did with this one, I figured out where the Happy Easter would go. Because what you do is you, I'll show you. You don't need the jig for this part of it. What you want to do is, let's say that you'd stamped a lot of things around here and you just don't know exactly where this Happy Easter will work. Once you've figured out where it will work, then you can line it up and stamp it with the Stamp-a-Ma-Jig there. I'm getting a big jump on my Easter cards. This time I'm just going to put Happy Easter right there. And then on this one, I think I'm just going to do some dots around. And it's important when you're doing this that you turn your stamp so that when you have your stamped image, it's not always exactly the same, because it gets kind of repetitive and boring if you do it that way. Turning the stamp each time I do it. So that each time the impression is just a little bit different. It makes for a much more interesting design. And the other thing you want to do, oh, it's a dilemma. The other thing you want to do is, if you can, you want to make sure that you stamp off the edge. See how there's circles that are halfway off the edge? And the reason for that is because it draws the eye all around the image. So all we're going to do now, I have some Spectrum Noir and some Sharpies, and I thought we'd just color real quickly. Oh, I want to show you something about the bow first. I brought this because I wanted you to see. I have this ribbon, and you can see it's got crinks in it. I bought this little hair straightener on eBay. It was like $3. It came from China. It took forever to get it, but here's the cool thing about it. What you do is you just pull your ribbon through there, and it straightens your ribbon. Isn't that cool? Good idea. So I just unplugged it, so I won't burn down the house right now, anyway. And now my ribbon's straight. Okay, next thing up, we're going to do some quick coloring. When I did the other one, I did all my dots in this purpley color, and I really like that color, so I thought I would just continue it. I don't think you need to see me color dots. I'm going to turn off the camera and then I'll come back when I'm done. Okay, so I colored all the circles and I started getting excited. I started coloring the rest and I was like, holy crap, I got to get back on the camera. Then what we're going to do, I'm going to show you how to use a bow jig, even though we're going to be doing bow jigs in the next couple days. maybe that's 2 days from today. I'm not sure. I'll look at my calendar and tell you for sure. But here's how you use a bow jig. You decide how big you want your bow to be, and I'm going to use this bigger section. So what you do is you take it and you wrap it around like this, then you go under. I did the wrong way. You take this and you go over and come back to the front, and then you just tie it. I know what you're going to say. This is easy as pie. Why don't you ever use it, Sandy? And then you make sure that it's in the center. Then you pull it off. I know! Genius! Look at that bow. Best bow ever. Anyway, that's how you do it. So then you can put it on your card pretty much anywhere, but I'm going to stick it like that. So I'm just going to cut a little bit off the bottom and a little bit off the top, and then we're just going to put some tape on the back, some tape runner, if I can figure out where I put it. Why do these things happen to me? I don't know. Okay, so I'm just going to turn it over and put a couple layers of runner. Then I'm going to put the bow where I want it. Put it right there, I think. And then I'm going to put that over the back. Then, because this is a thicker bow, or ribbon, not bow, ribbon, I'm going to put a little bit of runner right there, and a little bit more right there. And that way my bow really lays nicely on there. I don't need all that on the back. Get some more of that off. Whoop. And make sure it's straight, which it appears to be. Get rid of this. Then I'm going to take a piece of foam. I don't know if you guys have ever seen me do this, but I like to, instead of popping things up when I'm using a bunch of dimensional things, I like to use this fun foam, and then I use, let me get that out of the way so I don't ruin it. Then I use tear tape to apply it to my piece, because then it'll stick really well. And then flip it over, put tear tape on the other side. And there we go. Then you rub it down. Take the backing off. Always the hardest part. I'll start from this side. The foam is nice because it bends, so you can really get a, it's easy to attach it. And we're just going to stick it on there. You don't want it to be so close to the edges that it looks, that you can see it. Then this is what we're going to use as our cardstock, but I don't like this cardstock the way it is, and I like the pink that we have in our background. So I got this spun sugar from Distress Inks from Tim Holtz, and my little Tupelo Design distresser, and I'm just going to go around the edge with the pink, and I'm going to just make it pink around the edges. It's really a simple card, and this Stamp-a-Ma-Jig is a really simple product. It's smart. Whoever came up with it was genius. because like I said, the MISTI really does this for acrylic stamps and rubber stamps, but really wooden stamps, you're on your own until this product came out. So I think this is a great product to use. Okay, then I'm going to take my backing off. Cover that. You know I'm going to end up with ink on me. Then just going to line it up into our middle like that. Then in the inside, we'll just write a note. And then, you know, on the back I'm going to have to put my little stamp, which of course I moved. There it is. I made this for you. Now, I told you something else the other day. I could have put some brads on there like I did this one, but in the interest of time, I just decided it would be easier if we didn't. Then I did want to show you how I do envelopes. I explained this the other day, but I wanted to make sure I showed it to you too. What I do is I get washi tape, and I try to find a washi tape that matches my project. That one's pretty close. I'm going to go with, I like this one better. And I do it one of two ways. On this card, because the envelope flap is one of the square flaps, what I normally do on one like this is I just take the washi tape and I make sure I'm even on both sides. Not exactly the color, but close enough. So there are our two cards. I hope you learned enough about the Stamp-a-Ma-Jig that you'll want to get one or make one of your own. And if you're going to make one of your own, I would recommend you try to make sure that yours doesn't have these nubs. Can you see those nubs? I didn't have the girl that I borrowed these from, she didn't have any flat ones, and I guess there are flat ones, but anyway, she didn't have the flat ones, and it would be a lot easier if you had the flat ones here, so that when you do your image, it's that you can pick the stamp up easier. But that is the Stamp-a-Ma-Jig that we made, and I hope you like this. I hope you give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And tomorrow is a big day. We're going to make some metallic inks. And I have a surprise DIY tomorrow that's going to be pretty cool. I hope you'll join us, and I thank you very, very much for watching. And please check out my blog. It's www.craftingforalmosteveryone.com. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.